Hey, everybody, how are we doing on this fine Tuesday evening? Boy, everybody's ready for Alex. I see Rob Stolzer's yelling, Alex, 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 Alex. All right, well, we won't wait any minute longer. We'll bring Alex into the stream. Hey, Alex, how are you doing tonight? Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, awesome. I was worried that we're having that audio issue still, but we're good. Awesome.
No, we're good.
Well, welcome to the show, Alex. We've
Thanks.
emailed many times in the past, and finally got to meet each other at the Baltimore show, which made me think, you know what, it's about time we have a face-to-face conversation, a little bit more lengthy than the emails we've had for so long.
And in standing in Alan Davis's line.
That was a pretty long line.
Yep.
But you picked up a few things from him, didn't you?
I picked up a sketch in my sketchbook that's for them to draw whatever they want, but they have to tell me why they drew it. In his case, he drew a picture of the artist as an old man, basically.
Yeah. What was his reason for doing that?
I think he just felt like he was running out of gas at the show.
He was feeling like an old man at that time.
Exactly right.
All day, probably.
And I thought he was older than I am, but he's actually a week younger.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the life of an artist is hard.
Miles, yeah, they kind of wear on them, I guess. But
Yeah.
well, that's all right. But where are you from? I mean, was Baltimore a local show for you?
No, I'm in Houston, and
Okay.
I've been here since I was 3 years old. We moved here before the big freeway through town, which is now known as Interstate 69, was built. In fact, they were tearing houses down behind the neighborhood we moved into when we moved here, and I'm probably the only person you know whose mother told him to go play in the freeway.
Before there were cars on it, I imagine, right?
Before there were any cars on it, that's true. But it was pretty
Yeah.
interesting to go look at.
I can only imagine. So that as a project of that size, you probably had plenty of time to play in the freeway.
Yeah. It took a decade to get it running.
Oh man, well that's yeah, you wouldn't get that from too many moms. But so hey, if you've seen a few of these, and we always talk about your origin story in comics
Sure.
and comic art. So why don't we start there? Because again, we've talked nuts and bolts about CAF in the past. We've talked about a lot of different things, but we've never really talked about your time in the hobby. And I know that you've got your collecting tastes are very eclectic, and so I'm curious how you got started.
Sure. Well, I got started with comic books in the summer between the second and the third grade. My family had gone to Mexico for a vacation. There were 9 of us in a station wagon. My mom, my dad, my baby sister, my aunt, and 2 cousins, my brother and I. And we drove down to Mexico, and we on our way back in Mexico at that point didn't accept credit cards. So you had to buy your gas and your food and everything in cash. On our way back, my dad had actually run out of money. And the only money we had was about $10 my grandmother had, and I had $1.50. So I threw it in the pot. And we managed to get enough gas to get out of Mexico and up to Brownsville and get back to where we could use our credit card again. We stopped at a Howard Johnson's, which, for those that don't know, was a hotel chain, actually a motel chain, that had a well-known restaurant in it, famous for ice cream. We stopped there to get something to eat, and my brother and I finished eating early and started walking around the place, and we found a vending machine full of comic books. And I'd never seen such a thing in my life.
Comics.
Yep. And a 12-cent comic was 15 cents because it didn't want to handle pennies.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back to the table, asked my dad for 15 cents so I could buy a comic book. If I'd been smart, I got my whole $1.50 back from him and bought a bunch of comics. But, I was 8 years old. So I went through and we looked at it, and the comic that I bought was Justice League of America number 29, which was the second crossover between the Justice League and the Justice Society. And it was the introduction of the Crime Syndicate of America. And my brother and I spent a ton of time staring at that splash page, which recently showed up at auction at Heritage.
I was just going to say,
I think more money than I was going to spend. 50 grand, I think it was what it went for. But I do have, you can see if we can see this. See
Yeah,
that drawing at the top of the page?
yeah.
That's a page from my first comic book.
Oh, nice. That's one of the artworks we're going to talk about today too.
Yeah. So anyway, we bought that comic. From that time on, I was pretty addicted to them, and I did the usual things kids do to make money. So deposits on Coke bottles were a nickel, so I could go around and find 3 Coke bottles. I could buy a comic, and there was a construction site near the house. I did mention the freeway.
Yeah.
They were also building some office buildings and various other things. Eventually, I got a paper route and used that money to buy comics, and then started babysitting, and which, by the way, that was a great way to make money. And did that and kept buying them right up until a year after I got married. And Kathy hates this story, but I'm going to tell it real briefly anyway. Yeah, I don't know whether you heard her or not.
You want to hear it again?
Yeah, she's going to hear it again. She's going to go down the hall if I'm going to tell the story. Anyway, I was sitting we were living in her condo, and it was a Saturday morning, and I'm reading my comics from the week before, and she comes walking out of the kitchen, through the breakfast area, through the living room, and into the bedroom. And she had that walk that let me know that I'd done something wrong, but I wasn't sure what it was. So I went in to check on her, and she was crying, and I said, "What's wrong?" She says, "My husband reads comic books." And I said to myself, I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't do drugs. I have a job, have 2 degrees from Rice University. It doesn't seem that bad. But what I told her was, okay, I'll stop. And so I literally went in, folded them up, put them on a shelf, and stopped for a decade.
Wow.
Then the time passed, and she'd said several times during that if I wanted to start reading them again, it was fine. But we had 3 kids at that point, 1 income. I didn't need to spend money on anything else. Until one day, a friend of mine at work walked past my cubicle, and in his hand was the unauthorized biography of Lex Luthor, which was one of the premier format comic books. And he goes past me, and I go, "David, do you read comic books?" Which is a little like asking somebody if they're HIV positive at that point in life. Mm-hmm. And he goes, "Yes, I have 8,000 at home." I said, "Oh, that's great, because I have about that many too." And so the next thing I knew, he brought me a paper bag full of all the comics from the 80s that I'd missed. So Crisis and Dark Knight and, everything. Just stuff I had never seen before. I'd heard maybe on the news, like when Crisis came along and they were going to redo Superman, I'd heard about that, but I hadn't read any of it. So I took it home, and in the very room I'm sitting in, but at that point it looked a little different, I started reading them, and the next thing I know, I'm hanging out visiting a comic book store behind the office once a week and picking up 1 comic or maybe 2. And then the worst thing in the world could have happened. Richard Evans of Bedrock City Comic Company opened a store virtually at the end of my street. I walked to the store, and I fell off the wagon, and I've been buying them ever since. For comic art, though, my grandmother had died in '67, and she left a little trust fund for her adopted children. And when it was dissolved, and there were rules for it, it would fall to her natural born children. There were 3 of those. So my aunt and uncle reached the point where the trust fund would no longer pay them, and the money came to the 3 natural born children. My dad had died at that point, so it got split amongst the 4 of us, and I got $1,500 in 2005, which was more money than I'd had that I could spend on anything I wanted to than I'd had since I got married. Certainly since I'd had kids. And so we talked about it. Kathy said, "No, that's your money. You go do whatever you want." About that time, I discovered Heritage Auctions, and I was looking at stuff on Heritage, and with money burning a hole in my pocket. And there were 2 pieces I really liked. One was a 1-page Sugar and Spike story by Sheldon Mayer, and the other was a Superman drawn by Kurt Swan. And that Superman's my favorite character, and Kurt Swan is my favorite comic book artist. And I really liked it, but I figured there was no way I was going to be able to buy it. I thought maybe nobody had ever heard of Sugar and Spike, and there wouldn't be anybody bidding on that. So I put most of the money on the Sugar and Spike, and I left a bid on Superman that I didn't think would win. Comes back, I'm out on my business trip when the auction's finishing. I come back to the hotel, open up the thing, and there's a green dot beside Superman. Well, first there was a red dot beside Sugar and Spike, and I was really disappointed. And there was a green dot next to Superman, and I quite frankly didn't believe it. I couldn't believe I'd won it. It was one bid. If somebody else had bid, they'd have won, because it was my maximum bid was the number on the auction. So anyway, that was my first piece of comic art. My favorite character by my favorite artist. And there it is. I put a watermark on it just to see how I like watermarks. I've never taken it off. I didn't own a scanner at that point, so that's the scan from Heritage. And the real one looks a lot better than that scan does. But
what size is it?
11 by 17.
Oh, nice.
And it's framed and hanging on the wall in the den. If you look at the picture that you used for the ad, it's over my right-hand shoulder.
Oh, that's right. I do remember seeing that on the wall behind you.
Yeah. So that was my first purchase right there. And ever since then, whenever I've come into some money for whatever reasons, I've gone out and bought comic book art. In fact, right now I'm actually going through the thing I think pretty much anybody my age is doing, is starting to get rid of my comics. I've decided long ago that I really was no longer a comic book collector. I was a comic book accumulator. Right? I wasn't going out and buying back issues anymore, unless it was a run that came up that wasn't collected in a trade and I want to read it. So now I'm starting to sell them off, and I've used that money to buy some stuff here of late. And
so when you were going after the Swan, I mean, how did you decide what your maximum bid was going to be? Was it just
I had $1,500?
So it was okay. So that was the measuring stick. Research. There was no research. It was just, this is where.
No, I didn't have a clue. Had no idea how this was going to work. I didn't know what a buyer's premium was. So but I said to myself, well, that Swan's worth more than $600. So, I'll put a $600 bid on it, and we'll see how it does. And I like the Sugar and Spike, and I bid on it for probably $800. And then it went over the 800 mark, and I'm going, what am I going to do? And I decided I'd put all my 1,500 with buyer's premium. By that point, I figured out what that meant.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't go over my budget. I bid, like 12 or something, and I lost. And that $600 bid that was just sitting there on the Swan ended up winning.
That's the one that got it.
That's the one that got it.
Wow. Yeah, I would have thought the other way around too. I'm not very familiar with the Sugar and Spike market, but I would have thought there'd be more interest on the Swan. But you never know, auction to auction.
And the Sugar and Spike one actually was damaged. It had the top tier had been cut off, and so they were. I don't know whether it was actually taped together or just held together, but physically placed next to each other. But it had some damage, and of course the Swan was immaculate. The Swan has a little backstory too. It's actually from the collection of Richard Penny of ElfQuest fame.
Yeah.
And Richard had bought it from Kurt at a con directly, and he basically had put it in his attic. And one day he and Wendy decided it was time to start cleaning out the attic, and they put a whole bunch of stuff up for sale at Heritage, and that piece was one of those pieces. I used to have an email from Richard that showed where he told me all of that, but I lost it somewhere along the email changes.
That's nice provenance, though.
It's pretty cool. And I do have, if you look at the additional images on that piece, can you call that up?
Yeah, you know what? I was going to share the screen in a little bit anyways. Let me go ahead and pull up
Sure.
your gallery here.
There's something interesting about that one.
I know you had a few other artists listed on it, so I assume, let's see.
Yeah. So so there I had it inked, a blue line inked by
Yeah.
Joe Rubenstein. And then the next one over, I had it colored by Laura Martin, which
Oh,
I think
very
looks
nice.
great. That's actually hanging at my eldest daughter's house. I kept the pencils myself, but I let her have that. And then, oh, this is the triptych of all three of them, so you can see how it looks. Man, I'll go to the next piece. Yeah, so this is Richard. It saying on a Facebook post that what he bought, so verify my provenance. So I lost that email, but I did get Richard to comment on it on a Facebook post. Now go to the next one. This is kind of interesting. When the Heritage guys put the piece I bought up for auction, they said it was the picture that was used in Eddie Zeno's biography of Kurt Swan.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at it, I scanned this from the book and blew it up a little bit, so it's kind of grainy, but you can see that they're not the same. There's a slight angle difference, and I think the year is different. If you scroll down, the year on his is, I can't read it, well, 92.
Hard to make. Oh,
And
90,
mine, I don't remember what mine is, but it's a different year. The two pieces are very similar, but they're not the same one. And so the Heritage, if you go look in the Heritage backlog and look up that piece, it'll say it's from published in Eddie Zeno's book, but it's not true. So,
if you go back and look at their stuff, okay.
Yeah, if you were to go back and look it up in their archive.
Sure.
I asked them if they could fix it. Once I showed them that it wasn't, they said, no, we can't.
They don't go back and change any old listings. Yeah.
I said, okay, fine. But if I can't imagine that I would ever sell it, but if when my family does, then they'll attribute it properly.
All right. Well, I think you've always written pretty extensive art descriptions. It's one of the
I
things
bet I'm the only one ever to request more than 5,000 characters in the
description. You were one of the first. That's for sure. Yeah, back in the day, we only allowed, I want to say like 2,400, somewhere around in there. And it would trim, or maybe it would error even originally, because we just thought nobody would ever write that much. And then at some point we just started trimming it, and then we just had to make it much larger than it was set to.
Yeah, I could use it a little larger because I put a lot of links in mine.
Yes.
But with tiny URL, I can go in and shorten them down, and it usually fits. I think I only have one, the Doctor Who piece, where it's Tom Zoller did for me, where it's all the doctors being chased out of the TARDIS.
Mm-hmm.
And on that one, I included pictures of everybody, and I think it got to be a little too big. But I managed to get the important stuff in it.
Yeah, I'm trying to go look at that piece. I know which one you're talking about. Yeah. Let's see. I could show that one here too. I think, let's see, here.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
I bought that. I had it done for my daughter for a Christmas present. In that year, 3 of the doctors, 3 or 4, I think it was 3, were appearing at Comic Palooza, Houston's comic convention. And so I got them to sign it. And then when I take her to different shows, and we've gotten everybody that's alive to sign it except Tom Baker. We can't. It's in England, and they have a limit on the size of piece that they will sign, so we can't get that.
Huh. Well, that's too bad.
She also got various ones of the companions to sign it.
Very.
And if
very
you scroll
nice.
down, let's see. Maybe I took the pictures out.
Oh no, there
they are.
There was a little bit of a break here. So yeah, some of the images are broken
out to refresh.
Yeah, they get, you know how that goes when people remove images from their sites and stuff. But yes, you put in a lot of work to make this, because it's not easy. We don't make this sort of thing easy on CAF.
Yeah, it was fun. Anyway,
yeah,
neither here nor there. So that's my story. I probably killed your whole show and the audience is left, but that's my
Well, that's really just the
story.
beginning. You're right. Okay, so that was your origin story. So that's how you got started. So after that first 1500, where did you go from there, though? I mean, you've got quite a few
Well,
pieces of art in your CAF. So that
yeah.
wasn't the end of it.
So I guess about half of my collection are either commissions or convention sketches. Particularly since Kathy built a sketchbook for me. I think I put that on the list, didn't I?
Yes.
Yeah. So Kathy spent 3 years following me around at comic book conventions, looking at who I was talking to, and then coming back to them and asking them to sketch in a sketchbook for me for my 60th birthday present. She and my daughters conspired to do it. I'm clueless. I'll never be Batman. It's clear I will never be Batman.
Right. She was saying,
My
"I'll be right
observation.
back. Let me go. I think I left something over on their
Yeah,
table."
exactly. Oh, girls, where'd your mom go? Well, I think she had to go to the bathroom. And I'm going, again? But I didn't put two to two together because I'm not that smart. One time, actually, Walt Simonson and Louise Simonson were here, and we were at Comic Palooza with my family and some friends of my eldest daughters, and we were talking, and they decided, I didn't realize this, but they decided they needed to get rid of me so Walt could draw in the sketchbook.
Mm-hmm.
But the mission they gave me was that Allie's friends were coming up on their first wedding anniversary, which is your paper anniversary. And I said, I know a guy that could probably draw a story. Matt's wife loves Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I said, I'll bet you I know a guy that can draw that and put Meredith in the drawing fighting with Buffy. And Matt goes, that's a great idea, because he's desperate for an anniversary present. So we go over to my friend Tom Zoller, and I explained this to Tom. And, I think I'm come up with this great idea and drug Matt over. And Matt thinks it's a great idea. And he commissions Tom, and Tom produces the drawing. But the real reason for us being there was to get me away from the table where Walt was signing in that sketchbook. And I'm sure there were other things like that too, but it
was over a couple-year period that they were working.
Yeah,
on,
it took them 3 years, and we go. We'd always go to the show here in town, but we'd also go up to San Antonio and Dallas. We went to Heroes Con. I went to Heroes Con the first year Nick Carty couldn't go. And the real reason I wanted to go was to meet Nick and thank him for the commissions he'd done for me.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so a lot of my stuff is commissions, and I commissioned artists whose work I liked. And I know that it's like buying a new car. You drive it off the curb and you've lost 20 to 50%, 25% of your car's value. And commissions are, 50% of the value when you get them. But I didn't care. I commissioned Nick Carty twice and helped him with his income. That meant a lot to me. And the drawings are awesome. I think I put the Batlash on the list.
Did. Yeah, that one is
So
here.
that probably is the second one I commissioned. And I gave him my wonderful art direction. I said, Batlash and a girl in a train. And he sent me back this absolutely delightful picture of Batlash on the back of a train with a woman he clearly just rescued. As the train's driving him off away from the bad guys. And I love it. I think it's just terrific. And that's another one that Kathy allows to hang in our den.
Well, it's really nice. I mean, it's only Carty could do, right?
Yeah. I mean, Carty girls are the best. The most amazing thing about this one is Nick called me to ask me if I liked it. I was blown away. I couldn't, I'm sure I blathered like a typical fanboy when he called. And, but it really made a difference. And the other thing is I'm immensely glad that he lived in Florida, because that guy's a charmer. And my girls and my wife fell in love with him on other calls he made, following up on the commission. and I'm sure they would have run away with him if they'd had a chance.
I never got to talk with Nick, but I love his art. I mean, like CJ mentioned, smooth pencils. When I think of him, I think about a lot of the convention sketches and commissions that he did later in his career, because I've seen more of those than his published work. But yeah, he was a great illustrator, that's for sure. And it's funny, he wasn't awesome. Intimidated by your request at all.
No, he didn't. It was nothing. And he turned it around fast. He worked with Spencer Beck at that point, and Spencer set it up and made it happen. And Nick was very professional. In fact, I found the older artists that I contracted were all very professional. Did I put the Gene Colan Daredevil on the thing? On the list?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So that one, I talked to Gene by email, which actually meant I was talking to Adrian, his wife, about a commission that I would do it. He had officially retired at this point, but my wife's a really good salesperson. And so what I've tried to do for a lot of my commissions is I arrange it with the artist, find out what it would cost, come up with the idea, and then I let Kathy close the deal and pay for it. And then she surprises me with the artwork for anniversary or birthday or Christmas or whatever. And this one was, I think, a birthday present. Yeah, it was a birthday present. And Gene had told her, or Gene through Adrian had told her that he would knock my socks off. My art direction was Daredevil and Black Widow swinging through town. And I mean, it just blew me away. I was looking at it, and I was so stunned that A, he did it for me, and B, that it looks as good as it does, that Kathy thought I didn't like it. She thought that I was upset. I'm going, oh, I'm just amazed. And that one's that's hanging on the wall underneath my Justice League page from the first comic I bought. So.
Yeah, that's really nice too. I'm actually going to switch over my screen here just to show a little bit more detail on that one, because it is great. I had commissioned Gene once too after he had retired. Probably like 2 or 3 years before he passed. But let's see here. Switch this over to that. But yeah, I loved his work. He's another guy.
It's actually the most popular Colan piece on the CAF. If you take the posting that's in his gallery and mine together and add the numbers up, it's far and away the most popular piece on the CAF, which is kind of cool. Not that it wins me $5 or anything.
Yeah, I've left Gene's gallery up there too. I was always, no one, the family never asked me to turn it off. Nobody approached me about it, and so I've always left it up there. I know the emails probably go to nowhere, but I just didn't have the heart to turn it off. He had a CAF gallery almost from the start.
Yeah, it's full of wonderful stuff too.
It is. It really is.
I didn't have the money to do it, but I would have liked to have gotten him to do a Dracula piece with the girl in it. So I just saw the comment about better presents. I can tell you that it helps a lot if you make a list of what you want and make it easy for them to buy.
Give them all the links. Here's whom to contact.
Give them all the links. I actually have a form letter for the Sugar and Spike covers that I get done, and it has all the details in it. It explains what the kids can and can't do, and and I just adjust the dear whoever, change the name, and at the bottom where I put some ideas, if the artist has their own IP, well, then I'll mention their characters, or just a seasonal cover or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, but mostly they've been team ups of one sort or another.
So is it I was going to say it's got to be partially the interaction that you get with the artists that you really enjoy with regards to getting commissions versus picking up more published pieces from those.
Exactly. It really is. And a lot of the guys that I would want published pieces from, they're really not very common. It's Sheldon Mayer had enough of them around that you can get, but Jeff Brown, who has his own IP, but he's most famous for doing the Star Wars books with Darth Vader and his kids. I don't know if you.
Yes, I'm familiar with him. Yep.
Yeah, so you can't find a lot of his art. I saw a bunch of it in San Francisco in the Cartoon Art Museum, but it just doesn't. The published pages just aren't very common. Since I'm not a diehard Marvel guy, then some of the things I like are a lot less frequently sold. Yeah, don't know why. Yeah.
Rob's commenting on your
Yeah.
Stan Lind commission.
I love that piece. I couldn't believe he did it. He was advertising in eBay, selling stuff, and I wrote to him to say, "Hey, would you be interested in doing a commission?" And the first time I wrote to him, I didn't hear anything. The second time I heard from him, he agreed, and he did these wonderful Sunday strips around the holidays. They were just full of, family stuff. The most famous is actually Hipshot riding through town while everybody else is celebrating Christmas. He's in the dark riding his horse out into the countryside, and then he, says "Happy birthday, boss." But anyway, so this is the watercolor that he did for me. It is phenomenal. So take just shadows. So the light source is up there. You can't see me where I'm pointing, but there's a lamp hanging from the ceiling. And if you look, he's put the shadows of Hipshot sitting there on the couch on the one wall, and Gay and Rick on the door on the other. I mean, that's a lot of work. And the candles on the tree, which of course is a fire hazard, he left the white paper uncolored to give the glow for each of the candles. I don't know. Are you familiar with this strip at all, Ricochet?
I've seen works from it, but I'm not familiar. I'm not familiar with the strip, but I've seen art.
I really liked his. I love this strip, and so I have a couple of published strips by him in this commission, and it was used in Comic Review. They put it on the cover one Christmas.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I was pretty happy about it. So now it's a published piece. Hi, Jeff.
Every commissioner loves when the piece they commission gets published, no matter where.
Exactly.
Cover, interior, it doesn't matter. It's always
doesn't matter.
It's a joy.
It's just nice to get the acknowledgement that your idea was worth something.
So on something like this, what kind of direction did you give him?
I said Rick and his family at Christmas, including Hipshot, who was his best friend. And then late in the process, I mentioned that I wanted Hipshot's cat, whose name escaped me when I was writing him. It's Belle Star. And he said, "Oh yeah, Belle Star is going to be in the picture." I said, "Okay, well, we're good." and the strip's full of puns. Hipshot is Hipshot Percussion. He's a gunfighter, and Rick is the sheriff in town, and his name is Rick O'Shea. And his wife, when she was not married to him, was Gay Abandon, and she ran the saloon. The older boy that you see was a free-range child that they took in and basically adopted. His name was Quiet, and he was anything but. And then the younger child is their natural-born child, and that's Seth. He has a very non-exciting name, but everybody else in town. The local gambler is Deuces Wild. It's like that.
Right.
But it's a really good strip. And I have another one where I really love the storytelling. If you go down to the script, you scroll down here, it's the one in there in the middle on the second row.
Okay.
All right. So what I like about this one is you don't even bother reading the words right now. The dad looks big and in charge on the left, and the daughter looks downcast. She's clearly messed something up. And then she's explaining what happens, and he's starting to slump. There's a loss there. But in the next panel, she's rising up and gaining strength and has a determined face. And he's turned to drink. And at the end, he drinks and can't face the problem. Now, as it happens, it's about your rustlers and, loss of one of their ranch hands. But I just love the way that story's told in 4 panels that in a throwaway strip in the back of a newspaper. It's pretty incredible.
Right. No, it's really well done. So, and you own a couple other strips by Stan?
Yeah, I do. I have a Sunday, which I really is kind of funny. But it tells you some character about Hip Shot. So he's, you're looking at the hotel where he lives, and he's cleaning his gun. And he's just being careful. He's with his gun because that's how he. One day when he's living, you'll notice there's a fly in there though, in this third panel and the fourth panel, and go down to the lower left. The fly is still around. The gun's been cleaned, and then Hipshot picks up his gun and fires it.
Nice.
He gets a fly slaughter like it. Clearly, the neighbors had protested it and firing the weapon.
Exactly. Wow.
Yeah,
that is great. That is really great.
I loved it. It came up. It's a heritage purchase. I don't have a lot of strips, but I have some that I really enjoy, and Ricochet was one of those.
No, that is wonderful. I really like that.
And as for published pieces, I have the strips are usually published. I'm just sitting here thinking about what else. I have Legion of Superhero pages. So my favorite character is Superman. My favorite artist is Curt Swan. My favorite group is the Legion of Superheroes. Curt Swan being the favorite artist of those Legion of Superheroes books. So I have a number of pages by him of the Legion, but there are collectors out there that far swamp my collection of Legion. I came to this way too late. You said I'm a long-term collector? No, I'm not. From 2005 to now, yeah, it's 16 years. But there are guys out there that have been buying this stuff since the 70s. I was ignoring it in the 70s.
Right.
I flipped through piles and just didn't buy a thing. I need to talk to that guy. But
if only you could go back in time, right?
If only.
But that's the thing. Legion collectors are very serious. That's the thing. Yes. There's a handful of them, and they love their Legion. And they can't even say there's a handful of them. There's a lot of them. So that, there's just not enough art to go around.
There's 3 I know of that probably corner most of the market. One of the ones I have is a flashback to where Starboy kills one of the bad guys. He can't find another way out, and he ends up killing him.
Who is the artist on that one?
It's Curt Swan.
Swan, yeah.
Yeah. And in that story, back in the original Legion issue, Curt drew it. It was, I think, Edmund Hamilton was the writer. Anyway, it was pretty good stuff. I mean, for DC, maybe it was Shooter that wrote it. Can't remember. I probably credited it since the words are on here. But the interesting thing is the one on the left, I bought on eBay. I saw it. I liked it. I managed to bid enough to win it. I was pretty happy. Then in 2012, my brother called me up and said, he's a dentist. He's an endodontist. Said he had to be in Boston for some additional training. And did I want to go see Boston and the Yankees play baseball, the 100th anniversary of Fenway Park? And I was reluctant to spend his money that way, but he said he talked me into it. So I said yes. So we went to the ball game. I sat 6 rows behind first base. The Yankees were there wearing their old uniforms, and Boston was in their uniforms. And basically every living Red Sox made an appearance at the game, and we saw them getting off the bus. Anyway, we had a great day. As we're walking back to the hotel, though, I realized that the Boston Comic-Con was in his same hotel. So I said, well, let's go to the Comic-Con tomorrow, since our planes were later in the afternoon. So we did. I ended up in front of Anthony's booth. He asked me, what are you looking for? And I said, well, I like the Legion of Superheroes. And next thing I know, it's Anthony, right? He hands me this big pile of stuff. And I'm flipping through it. And one of the pages is the second page of this 2-page flashback, which was unbelievable. So I got the 2-page flashback that covers, a regular 22-page story in, what is that, 13 panels. He recapped it. It's a large number of Legionnaires and drawn by Curt. And it's accurate in terms of which people are sitting next to whom in the trial, in the jury. It's really, I went back and looked it up. It's pretty amazing. So
Yeah, that's funny. Well, Anthony, he's always Johnny on the spot if he knows what
yeah,
you're looking for, and because he
He-
groups all of his art by book title or character or team, he usually has something he can hand you pretty quickly.
yep, he definitely did. And so I bought that. There was actually another Legion page he had. I had gone to a signing in October of 2012 in Orange Country, the store called Orange Country in New Paltz, New York. Walt and Louise Simonson were there. Dan Green, Joe Staton, Michael Dow Smith, Terry Austin, Bob Wiacek. Who am I forgetting? Oh, Ramona Fraden and Joe Sennett were there. So it was a pretty good crowd. I
Yeah.
happened to have to be up there on business over the weekend. So I called a friend of mine and we went over and drove into New Paltz and got signings and whatnot. And while I was there, I was looking through Bob's pile and there was a page of Legion art that I thought was pretty nice. And one of them I liked. It was a picture of Phantom Girl from a fairly recent issue of the Legion of Superheroes. And he says, "Let me show you something on that one." And I hand it back to him. He said, "He's doing this inks over blue line. The artist is Daniel Hadar out of Brazil."
Mm-hmm.
And he says, "She looked too fat." I don't know if you can see it, but if you look at that middle piece or down at the bottom, you can get it just the middle piece.
Well, let's see here. Oh, so from his
Yeah.
pencil, or from the pencils to
Yeah.
how he inked it.
If you look really closely, go to the next one. You look really closely, right around her waist in that horizontal
Mm-hmm.
place. He narrowed her waist up. Besides, he was too fat. Well, it was just too much for me. I had to buy it because that was just, the inker always wins, right? And
That's true.
I bought that page. I think I paid $40 for it. And in Anthony's pile were the pencils. And I'm going. So here's two pieces I never figured I'd find the mate for, and I did in the same pile of Legion art in Anthony's booth.
Well,
So
it was fate. I mean,
I
Anthony is kind of
guess.
the keeper of lost pages, that's for sure.
Well,
He has.
and actually, I bought two prelims for some of my commissions from him.
Oh
I
yeah.
have I have a commission by Dick Giordano when it was a very early commission, and I gave way too much art direction. Anyway, I found the prelim for that on Anthony's site and bought it from him. And then I found the prelim for my Nick Cardi piece. No, can't remember, but I found two prelims on his site and bought them.
But it's prelims from the pieces that you had already
Yeah,
gotten.
they're from my commission. If you can find Giordano and click on him, I only have one piece, and
All right.
you can see the prelim. He also had a prelim for the cover to Young Love something or another that they didn't identify. They didn't know what it was. And so I wrote him back and said, "Well, this is better than you think it is because it's a Nick Cardi prelim of published cover." Anyway, if you look down there at the bottom, there's the prelim I saw. So I bought that back from him.
That's funny.
Nowadays, I try to ask people for the preliminaries.
Yeah.
I'm willing to pay for them, but
No, well, it makes sense. You want to keep them together. I think
yeah,
that we as collectors would probably, I don't know, not be super happy knowing there's a prelim floating out there to the published commission you got, and because the person who bought the prelim may not know it's prelim, depending on how
right.
finished it was, and I do think that happens somewhat regularly, right? I mean, yeah,
Yep.
so yeah, that's but so it's good that you were able to reunite the two.
Yeah. So I was happy with it. Yeah, I find out odd stuff. So, but anyway, we were talking about published pieces. So I have a
Yeah.
bunch of published stuff, but they don't tend to be, big name books,
Mm-hmm.
except for maybe the Legion, which has a following. But most of them are like Huck. That was a series that Millar put out with Albuquerque Drawing, and I bought the last 3 pages of the first issue because they make a really nice, it's really good bit of storytelling. Who's read that book? Nobody. I mean, they did
I've never heard
reprint
of
it,
it.
and well, they reprinted it a couple of times, and there was an artist edition made, not the hardcover ones from IDW, but a soft cover of just the pencils with nothing else on it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of cool. But those are the 3 pages. Huck is kind of a Clark Kent Superman kind of guy, and one of his neighbors betrayed him, and he woke up one day kind of surprised to see the press outside. It probably tells the story better if it's not all 3 together. If you fell through, the Huck page is the last page of the book where he's looking shocked at what he sees.
Right now he's not enjoying waking up to that.
No, not at all. But anyway, so
that's nice.
My taste tends to be odd compared to what people spend lots of money on. I mean, like
I said eclectic. I didn't say odd.
Yeah. And I have a tendency. I love to get. I mean, my main theme is comic book artists and the characters that I most associate with them.
Mm-hmm.
Whether I get it as a commission or I get it as something I buy that's published. So the Wonder Woman strip there at the bottom, right there in the middle of the display.
Yeah.
So that was one of the ones. It was an inventory story. Apparently, it was one of the ones that Marv Wolfman was supposed to cut up and destroy, and he cut into tears. And thanks, Tim. And he cut it into tears, and I managed to get it. And I was just it was a Comic Link auction, I'm pretty sure. And I was really thrilled because H.G. Peter drew over 4,000 pages of Wonder Woman. He started drawing at 63 or 65 and drew it for the next 15 years. He drew 4,000 pages. I'll bet you there aren't 100 pages left. So I was pretty happy to get this. And it's actually the last scene in the story is actually it's this opening splash as well. So it's kind of I thought it
really nice. And you don't see these pages by Peters come up too often. I mean, they are rare.
I had a chance to buy the top tier from this page. It was in the CAF, and I'd left a note on the guy's comments. But when he was ready to sell it, I just didn't have the money. So, but I'm happy with the one I've got. I have no idea where the middle tier is.
But he reached out to you though, because you had asked.
Yep. I really appreciated that.
Yeah, it's I always tell people that, it's not a terrible thing to let people know you're interested in something if they're ever open to selling, because usually they'll look for you when it's time. I
haven't had very many people ask about buying any of my stuff. On the few times that it has occurred, I've said, put a comment on the piece, and that way, if I ever get around to selling it, I'll look there first.
That's a good way to do it. But yeah,
so what else we got on the list?
Well, we can, I made some slides. We can start looking at those versus.
Yeah, sure.
So let's see here. I've been trying to make a note every time we showed something from the set that you gave me. But here's a nice Frank Bruner.
Oh, I love this one. I have had very few good commission ideas. I'll admit that up front. I really depend on the artist to do something good with it. Something had come up at the time about the lawsuit between Disney and Marvel. Maybe it was because this was it was before Marvel got bought by Disney. But anyway, I said, and of course, Frank had drawn Howard for a while.
Oh yeah.
And so I contacted him. He'd done one for me earlier with Doctor Strange in it. And I said, how about this? And he thought that was just a great idea. He was also retired at that point, really wasn't taking commissions, but I'd done one with him before, and he liked this idea. And I think he just knocked it out of the park. We've got Howard and Donald fighting, Daffy trying to referee, Beverly in the background. And if you look in the lower left, under the sign that says Donald, you see Mickey Mouse's head.
Oh, you I didn't even notice that. That's
Yeah, and if I was, and he did that on his own, I didn't suggest it. I just wish I'd been smart enough to suggest doing that with Mickey and with Man Thing. I would love to have Man Thing's silhouette in the background, but anyway, it's just phenomenal, and it's pencil and it's gorgeous. It's framed and hanging in my study.
dang, that's awesome. Did he enjoy the idea when you
Yeah,
pitched it to him?
he really did. And a year or three later, I was in Myrtle Beach on business, and um, Frank lives and Casara live nearby, and so I asked him to meet me at a restaurant that my boss had recommended, and so we met up for dinner. And did I put the picture in the? Maybe not. I think
I
there
didn't
may be a
check.
picture of the two of them from that dinner on the piece.
I'll take a look on the piece while
Yeah,
you're telling us about the dinner. Let's see.
well, the dinner was just delicious, and they were really nice. I got there before they did, and I just watched. The place is pretty popular, and so you have to have a reservation and don't be late. And they weren't late, and we managed to get a place to sit. They seemed quite happy with the food. I know I was.
There's just a
There we
picture
go.
of you
Yeah,
guys together on the near the
yeah, the two
beach.
of us. Yep, beach in the background.
Yeah, I haven't. I think the last time I saw Frank was at a Heroes show.
Yeah, he was there one Saturday for just Saturday one time, and
Mm.
I forgot to go by his table. I'd gone by once early; he wasn't there yet, and then I forgot to go back later. It got busy.
Yeah, I never got anything. Well, did I get some? I bought. He had some character designs. I think maybe the one time I saw him, I think it was a drawing of a sentinel or something. But as
Yeah,
odd as that would be for Frank to do, and I think I picked that up. Don't have it anymore, but yeah, I love his work. I mean,
yeah, it's just
his work is,
gorgeous.
oh, it is, and I mean his Doctor Strange work is like super sought after now.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
the first issue blew me away when I bought it. I was just going, wow. Wish I'd thought about buying the cover back then, but hey, whatever.
exactly.
What's the
Uh,
next one you got?
let's see. I was going to switch over to that right now. Oh, this is a good one.
Oh, I love this. This is an interesting piece. Um, Sheldon Moldoff did these. I forgot. I met the guy, or I talked to the guy that actually suggested it. Sheldon was doing sketches at shows, but he wasn't making much money, and he needed it. And somebody suggested that he draw one and then light box and ink it, and then color it, and maybe color them differently each one. And so this one, of course, is based on a detective cover,
Hmm.
and I think it's just fabulous. I love the color choices, the whole bit. Uh, and if you call it up on the CAF page, I'll show you something interesting about it.
All right.
Scroll down. That's in the description
Oh,
because
down in the,
I have the best descriptions on the
you
CAF.
do. You do.
Yes, I
Ah,
do.
so you've got color versions
I
here.
found other versions of the drawing.
Hmm.
All right, and so you can click on them and call them up. The one that's kind of interesting. So the one at the top is pretty similar to mine, but I like this one because he drew the Joker as the Man in the Moon,
Right.
which I thought was pretty clever. But yeah, isn't it interesting how many of them he did?
Yeah. Well, it's good that he did subtle
Yeah,
variations on each of
hey,
them.
they did different coloring. There, one story I heard was that his son did the coloring, or at least some of it, and but he did the inking and the light boxing.
Sure. Oh, those are those are really great.
They're really pretty cool. Jeff Singh used to own one of them, and then I don't know who owns the other two.
Yeah, that's good. I really like these.
Uh,
Now, when you picked it up, you got it directly from him?
no, I bought it
No,
on an eBay auction.
oh, it's an eBay
Yeah,
auction.
I didn't go to shows throughout the 80s and early 90s. It
Hmm.
just didn't have the money to go spend, vacation time that way. So it wasn't until I think I started really going to shows in 2012. So 10
Okay.
years now, but before that, not so much. What else you got? I
Oh,
love talking about my stuff. So
Joe Kubert,
Oh,
somebody I also regret not getting anything from while he was around.
yeah, he's hard to get stuff from unless you bought a book. He would do whenever he published a book. There would be a limited run where he would do sketches in the book.
Yeah,
And
wasn't there one right before he passed? There was because I remember seeing him at New York Comic Con, and he was doing sketches for anybody who bought that book, and he passed later
that
that
sounds
year,
like it.
beginning of the following one. But yeah, he's one of the guys who I love his work. I mean, I've never owned anything by him, but this is phenomenal.
So really this came about because of a charity auction.
Okay.
There was an eBay auction run by Metropolis, by Vincent, and it was for Modest Needs. And Modest Needs is a charity that, if somebody broke their glasses and didn't have money to repair them, they would help them buy new glasses. Or if they had a tooth that needed treatment, they'd help with that. So it was small amounts of money to just help people, get through.
Yeah.
And the auction item there were two auctions. One was a one-person commissioned by John Romita, and the other was a one character commissioned by Joe Kubert. And Joe didn't do commissions, and I knew he didn't do them. And like I said, the interaction with the person is probably as much important to me as the artwork. So I talked to Kathy about it, and we bid, and then we bid some more, and then we bid some more. And, it's for a good cause, and we do make charitable contributions, so we didn't feel too bad about but without her, I wouldn't have it because she kept encouraging me. So finally, I got to the number that at that point in my life was just too expensive, and I stopped. And I said, at least we raise money for a good cause. And she agreed, and so we let it go. The next day, Vincent said, Joe agreed to do another one for you if you'll match the winning bid, which was like $10 higher. I said, yes. Yeah. I'm sure I said it before you even finished the question. But then I had an interesting problem. What character do you get? I mean, Tarzan and Tor and Sergeant Rock and Enemy Ace and Hawkman. I mean, there's a whole bunch but at the end of the day, I decided Sergeant Rock, and I love this piece. It's terrific. My wife does not like this piece, and it is not framed and hanging in the house, but I love it.
Oh no, it's totally worth picking up a piece like this. I mean, come on, this is when you think of Kubert, you always think of his war books. I mean, I think of that and his Hawkman, and then you also have in your CAF gallery. I saw you have I
have a Hawkman. Yeah,
well.
Yeah, that was in the book Tex, which was a comic done in Italy, and he drew that particular one, and you could buy the books, and he did whatever 100 of them, and you could get a character put in. Rob Stolzer's got one that I like. It's got Enemy Ace and his dog, which is really
sweet.
Nice. Yeah.
Did you see that video that we got submitted for the Kubert exhibition that was in Spain? I think it's currently running. I think it goes through the middle of January. I'll send you a link to it after the show. It's,
okay, that'd be
about
great.
a 3-minute video clip that was sent in, but it's really great. I mean, just to see all I mean, there has to have been at least 70, 80 Kubert pieces from his whole career, and they're a very unique kind of castle-ish kind of feel where the art was hanging, but it was amazing.
If you run out of things to do and can't sleep on YouTube, there's a video of John Romita and Joe Kubert drawing at a con, and it's fascinating to look at how they're drawing. Romita drew Spider-Man, naturally enough. Kubert drew Hawkman, and John did all the preliminary drawing that you expect, and then came in and finished it. And he's very meticulous about it. And then Joe sits down, and I swear Hawkman just poured out of his pen. Their approach was so different, and they were both extremely effective images. And it's worth watching that video. It's pretty easy to Google.
I'm gonna say I'm just making a note of it. I want to check it out because I
Ramita
share
Kubert.
videos over on the CAF page too. Just stuff like that I dig up on YouTube as well. But that sounds awesome.
It's pretty amazing. Fact is, if I was smart, I'd take it and I'd put it in the description on this one, because you can see how he would draw a Hawkman.
Right.
I've done that a few times. I taught myself enough HTML that I can. And don't ever take that ability away from me. I love being able to embed that stuff.
We've debated making it so it has like a what you see is what you get kind of editor on
Yeah,
there. We haven't done it yet just because it would be it would be a fair amount of work and
yeah,
conversion. So but no, very good stories for both those. This is a great piece. I mean, who wouldn't want one of
yeah.
these?
I'm thrilled with it. It's in a book, but that's
No,
okay.
hey, that is fine. I mean, to get any piece by Kubert like that is
Yeah,
fantastic.
I was very happy.
All right,
So
that
what's
one
the
we've
next one on
seen.
your list?
That one we've seen. All right, here we go.
Cursed Pirate Girl.
Yep.
Are you familiar with the Cursed Pirate Girl?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
So Jeremy's artwork is mind blowing. I saw him at Baltimore, and we both got locked out of the con at the same time. There was another show at Baltimore in the same building, and you couldn't go in the normal way, so we had to go out. So I had a chance to talk to him for a while, and we've known each other for years. I first saw his book at Heroes Con. I was at Dave Peterson's table with Kathy, and we were talking to Dave, and Kathy got to talking to him about something or another. And so Jeremy's sitting there quietly, as he always is. And I picked up his hardback copy of Cursed Pirate Girl and flipped through it, and it's gorgeous. And so I got him to autograph it, and I bought it and took it home and read it. And the next year, I made a beeline to Jeremy's table and said, "Will you draw at the show? Are you going to draw at the show?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Will you draw something for me?" He said, "Yes." He said, "What do you want?" I said, "Cursed Pirate Girl." Terrific art direction on my part, I want to point out. And he said, "Okay." I said, "When do you think you'll have it done?" He said, "It'll be done before the show's ready. I mean, before the show's over." I said, "Okay." And that's where I left it. I'm not even sure I asked how much. And this is what he gave me back. It's a 6x9 card, and I think it's just beautiful. I think it's an absolutely wonderful drawing of her,
No, it
and
is. He's incredibly talented. I mean,
he
I've always
really is.
admired his work. Yeah, it's I don't know how he does it. Those pen and ink pieces,
Oh,
some
I
of the
don't
stuff I've
either.
seen are just uh, they blow me away.
He,
So
I asked him. We were talking about something, and he told me he could do 10 or 12 pages a year. Think about that. One page a month, maybe.
that
That's amazing.
is well, it's hard to imagine, but the thing is, I know
Yeah.
he puts so much effort into those
Yep.
pieces.
And it's just you should see this one in real life. It's just incredible. I also have, thanks to Rob Stolzer, I have the first commission Jeremy ever did of Cursed Pirate Girl.
Oh
Rob
yeah,
was pruning his collection, and he was the first person. And there is a letter from Jeremy attesting to it. And it's if you want to if you want to call it up, um, and then Rob kindly wrote me a note when I bought it from him, saying that he commissioned Jeremy and whatever. So we have wonderful provenance. It's not on this one. There's
right.
another.
I was
Yeah,
gonna switch
there he
over.
is. That's top middle of the top row.
There we go. Oh yeah, no, this is. I love this image. I haven't seen this in a long time. I'm so glad you made me look at find it because it is it's probably one of the first images I saw by Jeremy that really turned me onto his work.
Yeah, it's wonderful, and it is. If you scroll down and look at the additional images, you'll see there's the. Oh, I guess we're in the enlarged view. Now there's Jeremy with it. That I took it to him to get a picture of him with
He
it.
was happy to see it returned to him for
Yes, he was.
for the photo.
And there's the note where
Oh,
he's talking to Rob about, here's your piece. Hope it lines up. You're the first person to commission a CPG piece.
nice.
Yeah. And then there's my note from Rob. And I'm eternally grateful. It's terrific. And the other one I have from him is pretty neat looking too. If you want to go back,
That's this one here.
I just wanted to ship. I said it was in Portland, and I missed the first day of the show. I was talking to Katie Cook, and they were sitting next to each other, and I saw Jeremy was drawing, and Jeremy can't. He's not very fast. So I said, "Are you drawing?" He says, "Yes, obviously." He's drawing there in front of me. I said, "You going to do it? Would you do any more?" And he said, "Maybe." And I said, he goes, "What do you want?" And I said, "A pirate ship." And so that's what he drew me. And that pirate ship is way cool.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Wow.
And he drew it at the con, I think his work's fantastic.
Yeah, I've never actually approached him at a show, and I don't know why, but I mean, does he bring drawings with him that he's pre-done, or does he pretty much only
He has a
take?
lot of prints.
Yeah.
He sometimes has drawings with him. He sells his art through a French art gallery, and it's about $5,000 ish per page, roughly. Some may be more, some may be less.
When you're only doing a page a month, that's a fair price for his work.
Yeah, absolutely, positively.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't bought one, and I really should. It's just a few more comic books. What the heck? But I love it. I mean, I just love his work. And he and his wife and Dave Peterson and his wife, they're together. The two guys are always together at shows, and they are wonderful people. I really enjoy spending time with them.
Yeah,
I'm sure they're.
I love Dave.
Tired of seeing me.
Well, they're tired of seeing you.
Tired of seeing me, but I really enjoy being around them and talking to them. In fact, there's a lot of talent in Michigan. You throw in Katie Cook and a few other people.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's those.
I own a lot of Katie Cook's, those little pieces of hers. I probably own about 15, 16 of them because, it's back to, you always love putting money in the artist's pocket, right? Even though,
me too.
Like, those pieces are, yeah, exactly. I always try to view myself as a patron of the arts. So if I'm going to a show, that's got to be my job. And so I always try to spread as much money around the room as I can. And Katie's just somebody, she's so fantastic to talk with. And
yeah, she's funny.
Yeah, she is. Her lines are long now these days. I'm sure you've known.
Oh yeah. I've only been to San Diego once, and in that show, she had easily the longest line in Artist Alley.
Yeah. No, that's how.
It's amazing what people will do for a $10 drawing.
Right. I mean, every time I see her, you've got a few over here.
You pick that middle one on the second row.
Sugar and Spike, sure.
Yeah. So I think that was the second one I ever had done, and that's her character Gronk, and the people from the Gronk cast, and then Sugar and Spike. It's pretty much fun. Yeah. So I think that's the one that started me down the. I mean, I did one with Fred Hembeck first. That's the first one I did, but it wasn't intended to be a theme. And then I thought, well, it could be a theme. And so that's the way that's fun. And then
I was just curious about the Hembeck, if you don't mind.
Go ahead. Call it up.
Oh, yeah, I remember this one.
Yeah.
See, we featured it back in 2019 on Christmas Day.
Did you really?
Yeah,
I missed that.
Highlighted on 12/25/2019. Yeah, no, that was.
I think this was an old image too. If you click on it, it won't get bigger, right?
No, it's small.
It's the old one.
Yeah,
I'll have to reload it. That was fun. I always liked Fred's work, and I was thinking I wanted somebody to draw something that would honor Sheldon's characters, and so we exchanged emails. I don't think we talked on the phone. And so I said, I want Toon Fred, and I want a Hembeck elf girl. And at first he was concerned. He wanted me to draw himself as a girl elf. No, I want a girl that's dressed as an elf,
right?
In Hembeck style. And then Sugar and Spike in Santa's lap, and their friend Bernie the Brain hanging over his shoulder. And then I said, I'd like the Three Musketeers, and then Scribbly is my favorite Sheldon Mayer character, and he's a kind of an avatar of Sheldon himself, and Sheldon's little brother Dinky, and then Ma Hunkel, the Red Tornado, and the Cyclone Kids, one of whom actually is Dinky. So Dinky's in there twice. And then that guy Superman, Sheldon pulled him out of the submittal pile and put him
Yeah.
into action number one. And then on the elevator, you can see Wonder Woman and Green Lantern and Flash because he had a hand in the creation of all of those. And then the two parental units going up the thing are the parents of either Sugar or Spike. And of course, you don't see their heads because in the early issues, you never saw the parent's face. So anyway, it was a really fun piece.
Well
I had a
thought out.
guy, yeah, it just nailed it. And I mentioned that signing in New Paltz. Well, the reason I went was Fred had mentioned he was going to the signing on his Facebook page, and that's what made me think, well, I'll just go too. And so I got to meet Fred and talk to him about it, and we laughed over the piece because it really was quite unusual. And then somebody contacted me about it's 11 by 17s now. Somebody wrote to me and said, could I color it? Fine. I said, just send me a copy. So he did it two different ways. And, I kind of like the brighter colors, but
Oh yeah.
he wanted to play with it. He's just learning to be a colorist, so he just wanted to practice. But I thought it was a really nice touch. I think I made a GIF out of this too somewhere so you can see them, all three of them. But
Yeah, no, that's great. Very well done. I love Fred. I've only met him one time for all the shows I've gone to. I don't know if he doesn't do a lot of shows or how that works out, but when I saw him,
he
I got
does
I got something
Albany,
from
but
him.
I don't know about any others.
Yeah,
He does.
I don't even remember what show I would have seen him at. It wasn't maybe it was like a Mid Ohio show or something, but it was at
Could
least
be.
10 years ago. It's been a long time since I've seen him.
Anyway, that started me down that path. So what else you got?
That's what I was just looking for. Oh, here we go.
Oh, this one's great. So the right-hand side, and there's two that go together on this. So the right-hand side of this image is a recreation of the cover of the first comic that I ever bought my kids. Okay.
All right.
So you remember I told you I'd stopped for a long time, and then I went to this little comic book store behind my office.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one day I took all three of my girls to give Kathy, some quiet time because she didn't get much of that. And we went to the comic book store, and they're looking at the rack. And I said, well, okay, do you guys want one? And they said, yes. So I said, well, which one do you want? And they pointed to this issue. And I said, well, why that issue? And it says, because it has mommy on the cover. I said, okay, I can live with that. So I bought that issue. And it's in rags now. I still have the cover and a few pages, but it got read until it was destroyed. So my eldest daughter was graduating from college, and I wanted to give her something that was, from me to her that meant something to the two of us. And so I decided I'd get this cover recreated. Well, little did I know that Dan and both of his sons had passed away at that point. And so I'm kind of going, well, I really wanted to get it done by somebody that had a connection to the material. And somehow or another, I ran across John Sterling Lucas, who had done the Katie Keene books in the 80s, which my girls loved also. And I started writing to him and talking to him, and he's a real expert on Katie Keene and who drew her and the whole bit. It's marvelous. And I asked him if he would recreate the cover and extend it to include Katie and her little sister and my daughter Allie. And he said, sure. And so we talked about it and what to do. And then I asked him if he could color it. And he goes, I haven't done color in forever. I'm not really sure. I said, well, give it a try. And so he did. And this is what he created. And it's framed and hanging at my daughter's house, which is, kind of where it should be since it's for
Exactly.
her. But
That's
yeah,
a great gift.
isn't that awesome?
It
I think
is.
it's terrific. And I can't argue with him saying that Veronica looks like my wife. So that's cool. Now there's a part that goes with this. Can you go back to the CAF page?
Oh yeah.
And look for Dan DiCarlo. Well, actually, it's here. See there where they're on the left?
This one here.
Does
Yeah.
that look familiar?
Yeah, there it
So
is.
one day I'm in the Netherlands. I'm bored to tears because I have to stay over the weekend, and you can't work by law. You can't work over the weekend. So I have nothing to do in this little hotel in Barn, the Netherlands. So I did something I had sworn I wasn't going to do, which was look at the Comic Link auction that week because I really didn't need to spend any money. And I'm thumbing through it, and lo and behold, there is the original art to the first comic I ever bought my daughters. Well, I had to buy it. And so I prepared to bid far more than it should cost. And I won it for a lot less than that, thankfully. And, I was just thrilled because, what are the odds? Not good.
No, not at all. I mean, but you kept this one, right? Your daughter got
Yeah.
the commission,
No,
but
she didn't. She got the reproduction. I
yeah,
kept this one.
you get the original.
Yeah. The if you go to this page on the CAF,
Mm-hmm.
I was going to show you in the additional images. This is the joke. Has been reused. This is common for Archie. They reuse the same joke over and over and over. And so this one was used at least 3 times. So click the next one. Should probably get a bigger image. And then, so there's the second time they did it.
That's funny.
And then the last time they did it that I know of. They could have done it other times, but I was able to find those other ones. And this was the Dan DiCarlo piece I would love to find. It was on eBay once. I got cheap and didn't bid on it. Kathy was telling me I should bid more, but I didn't follow her advice. It's the only double page spread he ever did. It wasn't published. It was a commission. And it was inked by Ken Penders. And Ken told me a whole bunch about it. But Dan drew it. And like I said, it was on eBay once upon a time. But that's great. I mean, I put it up again. Maybe one day. So,
all
right.
That's a great story, though. It really is.
Yeah. So I was thrilled to find the original and get it. Oh, yeah. So I think I mentioned I'm a Legion nut.
Yes.
And well, this shows you how nuts I am. Kathy agreed to get this for me for our 35th wedding anniversary. And it's by Yale Stewart, who does a webcomic called JL8, which is the Justice League as 8-year-olds, basically. And I think it's fabulous. I love his work. He knows how to draw little kids, the body proportion or little kid proportions. He's terrific with body language. His scripts are funny. I just love it. I just love all his work. So I thought, what a unique idea. I'll do the Legion of Superhero as 8-year-olds. And so Yale was up for it. He says, it's going to be expensive. I said, yeah, I know. But he didn't know anything about the Legion. So if we go back to that one on the CAF for a second.
Yep, I can do that.
You see the first additional image? That's what I sent him as reference material.
You were very thorough.
Oh, yeah. I was on a business trip. I had time to kill in the evenings. I'm not a bar hopper, so, I sit in the hotel room, got to do something. But anyway, I described them. I found pictures of them in their costumes that I wanted him to use. I explained who their friends were. I went way overboard. But he found it really interesting. So he went out and bought some of the archive editions of the Legion from that vintage, and he became a Legion fan. So it's kind of funny. And he did, he sent me copies of the prelims as he was working on them. He draws in a blue pencil. And he sent me the first 2, and then he forgot to do the third one, which is why the next one says, oops. And then this is inked. This is what he sent me. The color piece he did digitally. And that's what I chose to put on the CAF as the main image. But I just love it. Everyone, you got the strong kids grouped together, showing off how strong they are. You've got Princess Projecta and Karate Kid and Pharaoh Pharaoh Lad all joined the Legion at the same time. And in the upper left, you got Matter Eater Lad destroying the food table, right? Because that's what he does.
Yeah.
Then to the right, in the middle, you got Light Lass and Timberwolf. They always had kind of a strange relationship. They were off and on. Colossal Boy and Violet. And he ended up marrying a Violet, not the real one, but that's another story. And then Triplicate Girl lost one of her cells by Computo killing it. And Computo is the robot that the so-called smart kids are putting together there at the bottom. And she's bouncing off of her husband, or will-be husband, Bouncing Boy, and about to crash into it. And so hence the expression on her face.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the upper right, you got Element Lad and his girlfriend. And then Sunboy, who is kind of the Legion's Romeo, is sitting there and he's getting little emojis off of his Omnicom. It's showing how much the people love him. Anyway, I love his work. This is a terrific piece.
Yeah, I've had a few other people with work by EL that's in were in their sets that they sent me.
Yeah.
So yeah, very popular artist.
I have several of his strips, and I have his Valentine's Day gift tags that he made, and I don't know. I have a bunch of stuff. But
now I know we looked at this one earlier, but
yeah, well, on the wall. So this is a page from my very first comic. I found it at maybe the first or second of the comic art cons in New Jersey, in Secaucus. And that we were there because I tricked my wife. I asked her if she would like to go to New York for the weekend and, fly up Friday morning and then spend the day doing museums and go to plays at night and eat dinner and do that again on Saturday. And then on Sunday morning, before we get on the plane to go home, I'd like to stop at an art show, outside of town. And she said, okay. So we went off and we did all that stuff. And on Sunday morning, because I didn't know anything about trains and how to get there, we took a cab into Secaucus at the show, and we're wandering around, and there are 5 pages from my first comic book at that show. And I knew where a 6th one was. And so I looked at them all, and this is the one I liked the best. But it was expensive, and I didn't want to spend the money. And eventually Kathy said, "You've been talking about this forever. We need to buy this." And I go, anyway, she bought it for me. And she reached out to Will's art page, and nice, smooth transaction. It's been on my wall ever since.
Well, it's a beauty.
And did I mention? I don't know whether I told this story or not. My brother and I were looking at the splash page. The splash page for this book, I may actually have it as an extra image in the listing. The splash page of this book really is nothing. It's all words. It had little figures of 5 Justice Leaguers, 5 JSAers, and 5 from the Crime Syndicate, who were the analogs of the Justice League guys. And, I'm 8 and Bill's 7, or actually he's not quite 7. And we're looking at it and we're studying it. We're trying to figure out who all these people are. And it really meant a lot to me to see that thing. And then lo and behold, it showed up at auction. And I came to find out that Maggie Thompson had put it up. There were 3 pages that she had. And they had gotten it. She and Don had gone to the DC offices, and Julia Swartz had given them 3 pages. The splash, a really nice battle scene that I thought would go for more than the splash. And another one of a flashback of differences in history in the Crime Syndicate world versus our world. And they took those 3, they put them in an envelope, and they put them in a drawer, and they forgot about them for the next 50 years. It was only after Don passed away that Maggie's cleaning up that she found the envelope and found the 3 pages inside it and put them up for auction.
That's amazing. Here's your vending machine.
Oh, yeah. That's my coin. That's my comic book vending machine.
Yeah.
Yep, that's where I bought out one of
I've
those.
never seen one of those.
I've only seen it. I've seen it twice. I bought the first comic I ever bought out of one end in Brownsville, and then somewhere between Houston and Knoxville, Tennessee, where my parents grew up, we stopped at another Hojo. They had another vending machine, and I bought Daredevil #1 out of it. Only I didn't believe it was really a #1 because I've been reading DCs and all the numbers were big, and so I didn't take very good care of it, and eventually it succumbed to the trip. But I bought Daredevil #1 out of a vending machine too.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Sugar and Spike. I'm a big fan of Sheldon Mayer. I particularly like his scribbly work. Sugar and Spike's much more famous. This is a cover that is still advertised for sale on Cool Line Arts page, but it was put up for sale, I guess, by them in Heritage, and I was able to acquire it. I'm going to send it in the one-page story I have in the 2 scribbly pieces that I've just recently bought to get them restored, because it's just, I don't want to get the glue stuff taken care of so it doesn't attack the paper anymore. But I just love it. This is actually a reused cover idea. Sheldon did that at least 3 times, maybe 4. I think the original one was like issue 24, and this is issue 90 something. And it's kind of interesting to compare the two. And I did put them in my additional images. But the premise is pretty simple. They are toddlers. They can talk to each other and to other babies, but they can't talk to big people, and they don't understand big people either. Oh, I forgot to mention, this piece came with the color guide and the proof. So I have the cover itself, the color guide, and then the proof. And of course, I bought the comic just because you have to. And then this is the original idea as he did it the first time back on issue whatever that is, 24 thereabouts.
Yeah, 24, and the one you have is 91.
Yeah.
So this was the color guide. That's great.
Yeah. Isn't that awesome?
Mm-hmm.
You don't often get all the pieces. And, I'm a collector, and I probably have some OCD in me, so it was irresistible.
I get it. When the opportunity's right. I mean, that's no, I'd feel the same way. And it's a good thing that you're getting that restored as well. That definitely has discolored a fair amount, and and it's not hard to do, and in the grand scheme of things, it's not incredibly expensive to do, but it's the right thing to do if you want to make sure that it's there for the next generation of art collectors.
Yeah, I've got quotes. I know what it's going to cost me, and I think I go on vacation December 15th, and so I'll put it all together and reach out and mail it to Gordon Chrisman if he still wants to do them.
He is the man right now. Yeah, I'd love to see before and after when you get it done.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, do that. I mean, send me the images. I'll show it on a CAF update. So give people an idea, some of the things that people can do through restoration. Yeah. Yeah. I've really.
So what's the next one you got?
A lot of that. What do I got? I've got, like skip over. Well, no, actually here, this one here. This is, I really.
Oh, so this I just bought. It was 2 pieces. They're from the estate of Harlan Ellison. And the first one was a cover for Scribbly had his own comic book for a dozen or so issues, and this was a cover for number 13, but it wasn't used. And as near as we can tell, and it used to hang, it in this recreation that he commissioned from Sheldon used to hang in a place of honor in Harlan's house, the guest bathroom. So if you went to his house, you would see this piece. But I think the first one is pretty good. The joke's okay, but he's got binoculars, and that's what got him in trouble. It's better in the recreation because there you have Scribbly, who is a cartoonist, sketching the girls, and his pencils are busted because his date didn't appreciate it. So I think it's a better joke.
Oh yeah.
The other thing is, in the original, Sheldon left out the beach ball, so you really don't know what those girls are doing. Are they dancing?
So funny.
So anyway, and then if you go back to the original, at the top of it, I don't know if you can see it.
There's some
It's really hard
handwriting
to
in there.
see. There's handwriting there, and Bob here and I worked on it, and we got it translated. And I put in the description, of course, I
Mhm.
put all of the text that I can see and we could decode. There are a few words that we're not quite sure about, but we did a pretty good job, I think. So,
That's really, really nice.
Sheldon, for those that don't know, Sheldon was not only the guy that pulled Superman out of the heat and put it into Action Number One, but he was DC's main editor for years, more than a decade, and he basically taught everybody how to tell a story in a comic book. The guy was just, he was a real talent, and he finally gave up. He just got tired of doing it, I guess, and he wanted to be more creative, and so he went off and did a number of funny animal comic strips and
Mhm.
stuff, and continued Scribbly for a while, and then came up with Sugar and Spike, who were inspired by his son and daughter, and took it from there. They went 98 issues. The 99th issue, DC published. Sheldon had to quit about issue 98 because he had cataracts and couldn't see to draw. And at that point, cataract surgery wasn't very common. So he quit. DC canceled the book. He eventually got cataract surgery. He could see again. He could draw again. He started drawing Sugar and Spike, but it went for the overseas market. So the 99th issue was some of that material. There's never been a 100th issue. So while we all wait for it with bated breath, I've been generating variant covers because,
That's awesome.
that's what you do.
Of course. It's a great theme. It really is. I mean, I look forward to them when you're posting them.
Thanks. But
Let's see.
anyway,
We've got a few more
what
pieces to
else you got?
look at here.
Sure.
Okay, this is a nice
Uh,
one.
so Carmine Infantino, the Flash, my favorite combination. The Elongated Man also was drawn by Carmine in his best adventures, and this is out of JLA 200 where they had a whole bunch of one-page battle scenes like this in the book, and it came up on the Romita Man website. And as soon as I saw it, Kathy was taking a shower, so I started talking to her about it over the shower door, and she said, "Yeah, you can do it." So I asked Mike about it, and he said, "Fine." I said, "Can I break it into 3 payments?" He said, "Fine." And so I paid him off and got it. And I love it. It's really interesting. It's also inked by Frank Giacoa, who was one of Carmine's friends growing up. And I think in many ways, he may have been his best inker. He was a fabulous inker. Apparently, he had an alcohol problem, so they cut his production down. But yeah,
No, Giacomo was a great inker. I agree.
yeah,
There's a lot of fabulous work out there that he embellished.
yeah. He
So,
looked great on Kirby and Thor.
oh
He
my
did a
gosh.
couple issues, and I thought he was awesome.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. But anyway, kind of a sad story though. Oh, and
Uh,
this is the ones I was talking about before. We
yep,
looked at the Kurt Swan flashback issues.
that was a good one.
Yeah.
So here we go. We got last 3. Now the first one
Okay.
and the second one are strips.
Oh, I love this. So Carol Day has to be the most beautiful comic strip ever produced. David Wright, the guy that did it, was a fashion artist for a long time. And I guess he just decided he had some stories to tell. And so he created the character of Carol, who is a model, and she's the blonde in the top tier. And it basically follows her through a series of stories over the years. He kept all his originals, and I'm not sure that I have this story right. I should ask it, but Roger Clark, I understand, discovered that they were all there, and Roger has acted to sell them for the family, and I bought my 2 from him. The he also for a while had ebooks that were available through Amazon of all of the storylines for it. And then when I finally decided I wanted to buy all of them, he'd already pulled them off of Amazon because they weren't selling, and he just decided not to do it anymore.
Oh,
Sigh. But what's really interesting is there's another. This is from a story called The Problem Child, and that's Jennifer, the problem child. There's another story called Lance Hallam that
yeah.
some people consider to be the best story. I kind of lean towards Problem Child, but whatever. The collector, there's a collector whose name escapes me at the moment. Somebody in the chat will probably know. And Roger have found all but 3 strips from the Lance Hallam story. They've gotten scans made, and they are publishing a wonderfully high-end book. It's expensive, but I'm going to buy one because I just love David Wright's work. And I wish they could do the same thing for Problem Child. I'd buy that in a heartbeat too. Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
The Lance Hallam project.
It's
And
at the printer
the book
right
is
now.
off. Yep. And Brian Boland's going to do a intro for it. And I mean, I'm really excited about it because the artwork, it's unbelievable. Go back to mine for a second. I'll show you something.
No problem.
So, can you make it bigger? I think this is one that'll blow up.
Yeah.
So what I want you to see is look at the way he handled the lighting in the middle panel of the top strip. So Carol's being illuminated on the side. She's basically a silhouette, but not quite. And then look at his wallpaper and drapes. Look at the work he put in the background that nobody cares about other than the fact it looks great and gives depth to the picture. I think it's fabulous. And then if you'll scroll down a little bit, and let's look at Jennifer. Again, I love the way she's illuminated here and the way he illustrated the shadows on her. But what really gets me is her body language in the last panel. She's upright and covering what she's working on because she doesn't want her aunt, who's kind of a meanie, to see it. And I think, it's just beautiful. The picture of Jennifer on the left, and then the way she holds herself, it's a little girl's proportions. It's fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. The best one, though, if this is you're on the CAF page, right?
Yeah.
So scroll down to the description.
Oh, the
link's broken.
Well, let's see.
I have to update it every once in a while. Oh, there it worked. It just
well, it's because there's a reason for that. When
I cheat, use but I like to show the picture. But anyway,
yes,
this is a powerful strip. Jennifer's run away from home. She's trying to find Carol in London. She really doesn't know where to go or how to get there. The fog is coming in because the fog was still common in London at the time. And this guy comes up and tries to get her into the car. How creepy is that? I think it's just a really powerful strip.
It is. It's gorgeous. So the imagery is wonderful. And I mean, probably that he put this much effort into it and that line work because I mean, these were printed in black and white, right?
Yep.
So I mean, he's knowing how they're going to look. He's wanting to put in that extra detail because there's no color to accentuate anything. Like you were talking about the shadows on the wall, the drapes or whatnot. I'm sure that had a factor into his approach. But yeah, these are beautiful.
They're just outstanding. I'd love to buy that one, but Aaron doesn't seem to want to sell it. Imagine that.
Yeah, anyway, I don't blame him.
Yeah. So I was going to mention something else about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so easy to tell in this strip, but you can tell he was a fashion artist because the clothing all drapes properly.
Mm-hmm.
You get folds where folds will be, and it just looks right. So anyway, highly recommended.
Marcus mentioned, like Bible illustrations, same idea. You know how it's going to print, so you draw to for best effect. That's very true.
Exactly. I hate to think how much time it took him to do all those. But that's framed and hanging on my wall. I love those.
And they should be. They really should be. I'd love to own a piece by Wright.
Yeah. What's the next one?
We
We've
did look
talked
at
about
this.
this one.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did. So actually, we only have one more, and it's probably the most special piece of all.
Oh yeah. Ah, yes.
And we did talk a little bit about this, but yeah, these are. It's just amazing that she did this for you. That's just fantastic.
It is absolutely positively the best gift she could have bought me. It's just incredible. You know, most of the artists did it for free. There are a handful that charged something, but not much. Even Neil Adams didn't charge as much as he might for the Joker that's up there at the top. Yeah, I was thrilled. I just couldn't believe she went to so much trouble. I think she likes me.
You've got to keep her there, Alex.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, that's fantastic to have again that much effort. So, I mean, what year was your 60th?
So I'm 66 now, so 6 years ago. So 2016,
16. So yeah, so here you go. This was done in 2013. That
13. Yeah.
Like you said, it was a 3-year process. There's
There's one of Katie's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one.
Oh, the best one, the one we really need to look at when we get there is Andy Price's. His is priceless.
Is there an owl in it? Let's
You'll
see. What we
see
got?
when we
Mouse
get there.
Guard, of course. Love
Yep.
David stuff.
Yeah.
Don Rosa.
Don Rosa,
Very nice. Yeah, something by Joe. That's good.
Every time I'd see Joe, he'd ask me how old I was. I'm going, your birthday's just 3 years apart from me. You know, you know how old I am. But Kathy was so mad at him when he'd do that because she was afraid he'd give it away.
He'd give the secret away.
Yeah. Nick Patera is awesome.
Oh yeah, Nick he's an incredible talent. Nice, super nice guy.
And Mike Mayhack does the best Supergirl and Batgirl work you'll ever see. My friend Tom Zoller.
Yep, that's a big number.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Look at that. That's so nice.
Owly by Andy Runton. Great book. Almost wordless. And Allie and Wormling and their friends.
I bought many of these for my kids.
Stuff.
Yeah, no, I do. Oh yeah, no, my kids have at least 3 books I picked up. Yeah. I mean, his stuff was just so well done, and I
bought
love
it for my grandson.
Oh yeah, good.
Yeah, those books. Yeah.
By Yale. There you go. Right.
Yeah. That's from Morning Glories,
and
she's a psycho. You don't want her with a knife near you. David Marquez is an interesting one. He actually went to school with my wife's best friend's girls. And David was at Comic Palooza one year, and we got to talking and realized that my wife's best friend's house.
Oh, wow.
Small world.
Exactly. Oh, and you got a Simon Bisley piece.
Yeah, that's Simon. Yeah.
Oh, you guys, are you flipping?
Yeah.
Oh,
yes, he is. Yeah, right. So the other picture, the one to the left, is Simon and a woman.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked with Christy, and I'm actually at a play in Houston, and she texted me before the play started saying, "Do you know some artist named Simon Bisley?" I said, "Well, I don't know him, but I know who he is and what he's worked on." And she would just happen to meet him in the bar, and they got to talking.
That's
so
funny.
He sent me a loving picture. Anyway, all right. So Dan Parent, we've known Dan for a while.
Yeah.
Got a bunch of stuff from him.
Nick Bradshaw.
Yeah, that was a great picture.
Oh, Robert Wilson, that's good too.
Yeah.
Jeff Smith, of course.
Jeff Smith with Bone. Yeah.
Bob McLeod. Can't go wrong with Bob. I had Bob on the show a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
Simon with the party hat, of course.
I love the party hat. Beta Ray Bill never looked better.
Oh man, that is awesome.
Val Merrick, creator of Howard the Duck.
Oh yeah.
Or co-creator, I guess.
Steve, another good one.
Steve Irwin, yeah.
Yeah, really, really nice. Turning 60 isn't easy, he wrote.
Matt Haley.
Matt Haley's great too. This is good.
He's a big Legion fan. I didn't know that. I got to talk to him at a show. Carlo Barberi. He was at a show here in Houston. Walden Wong, a really nice guy and a terrific artist.
That's really nice too. Wow. Jessica Braun. Yes, I haven't seen a lot of her work, but yeah, no, she's really good. Braden Duncan.
This is just Kathy just liked Braden's work. I never knew who Braden was till I saw her in the book.
So you got were there other artists that she picked that you hadn't met?
No, that was the only one.
That was the only one. No,
yeah, Matthew Weldon is a guy out of Austin whose work I really enjoy.
Yeah, it's getting closer.
He has a night job. Yeah, Matthew works as a safety officer, and he would draw his comics sitting in his car out in the parking lot.
That's dedication, right? I mean,
yeah. I thought that was really nice.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. Farrell Dalrymple. I really like Farrell's work.
Oh, this one made me laugh when I saw.
Oh, Bill Dewey.
I love that. Oh, hey, Jesco. You know, he doesn't do a lot of work when he's at cons, so anything you can get out of Joe is always good. This is really nice. Drinks are on me. Very. I like that one.
I invited him over for dinner on that show, but he had made too many commitments and had to work all night long.
Yeah, no, I've always wanted to get something by Joe. I just never gotten him at the right time. I love his signature's awesome. I always love that.
Yeah,
like a riff on Frank Frazetta. He gets the JJ versus the FF. Oh, Andy Price.
This is the one. Can you read it?
Stuff. Let's see. Say, birthday boy, would you like a pony bride?
Read what the other two say.
Yes, I see that. She implying keep a clean thought. Yep. No, my kids are. Well, I have a few pieces by Andy as well because my daughters are My Little Pony fans. So that's great. He's a fun guy.
He is indeed.
And this was done a year before, so that's just great. I mean, it's so good that all these guys and gals were working on stuff knowing that you weren't going to see it for a year or two down the road, or 3 years down the road.
I'm a big Agnes fan too. I have a really big commission by her.
Oh yeah, no, she does great work. Nice. Well, I don't think we have any worry of you breaking up this sketchbook.
No, that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah,
Ben Bender has a new book out called Bjorn, and it features the littlest Viking ever, and he's a little blonde-haired guy, which he looks a lot like my grandson.
Oh yeah.
And so we have a Sugar and Spike cover that Ben did where they're emulating Calvin and Hobbes riding in wagons down a hill, and so in one wagon it's Sugar and Spike, and in the other one it's Bjorn and my grandson Lars about to crash into each other.
Nice. Yeah, he kind of has that inking style too that would work well if he was doing a little riff on Calvin and Hobbes.
Yep.
And then Tony's always great.
Tony closed the book for me. Shadow Lass.
That is a good one too. I mean, that's to end it on. You couldn't ask for better. That's great.
Well, I hope I didn't scare everybody away from your show.
That was not going to happen, Alex. Well, like you said, a lot of people, so many of us have seen your CAF gallery for a long time, and you post around a lot. I mean, you've always, you wrote that little guide for people who are new collectors. You've done a whole lot of effort to make the hobby a fun place and a thorough place. And it's going to, and now I see it. You were thorough in that one Legion commission, for instance. I mean, I get where it's coming from. So I mean, I appreciate that. I mean, I've always respect when you would send me a thought on how to, you need more space in the descriptions. Trust me, I took it all to heart. I mean, so I'm glad that we finally got to meet and get to do something like this as well.
Likewise. I was really glad to see you at the show. I think we wanted to go to Heroes the year you were there, but we couldn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think we got COVID. I think that was that this
That's
year.
what it was. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
I got
right,
COVID.
that June show, and that was a great show out. I mean, you would have had a wonderful time. That was,
Yeah,
but I mean, Baltimore was, almost as good, but Heroes was really special just because of the number of calf collectors that were
yeah.
there.
Had the group picture was great.
Oh yeah, and there were at least 200 people there that had calf galleries. I mean, it was really
Wow.
amazing. I just couldn't corral them. I picked the wrong time. I was like noon on a Saturday was not the right time to
Well,
do
not
it.
the best time to do
No,
it.
I should have
Yeah.
picked like the last half hour of the show.
Show or
But
something.
yeah, because people were working in people's booths or just, or
Yeah,
you name it, they couldn't get up and leave. And there was
chasing their sketchbooks.
Simonson was there. There had to been a line of about 100 people in Simonson's line, and the same thing in Claremont's line. It was just amazing how many, So yeah, wrong time to do it, but we're gonna make Hero the regular rally point
Right,
show.
we love Heroes. That's our favorite show. We love going to Baltimore. Baltimore's a lot of fun, but Heroes is our favorite. It's no ifs, ands, or buts.
Well, I hope you can make it next year because we'll definitely be doing it again. I have a feeling we'll probably do some form of kickoff party on Friday again.
That'd be great.
I'll coordinate it with everybody. But it's CAF's 20th anniversary next year. Well, February 1st.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, I hope to do a lot of fun things next
Yeah,
year.
I didn't join until what, 2006, I think.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it was early though. You still have your IDs around 10,000, so that puts you in the first 5 years for sure. But yeah, no, this was great. I sincerely appreciate it, and honestly, having Kathy in your corner is definitely an asset when it comes to collecting artwork. I mean, she's definitely. I mean, we all like that. My wife has always been pretty supportive of stuff too. As if I show her something I like, and she buys stuff. She bought stuff at the last Comic Art Live show that we did, and when we go out to cons, she bought the girls' pony art. She was the one who bought the first pony artwork from Tony Fleece because she was just, she loved his work, saw it, and bought like 2 or 3 pages.
You should show her my Tony Fleece piece.
I will.
Because it's a double page splash of every pony there ever was.
Seriously? Okay, I did not look.
Seriously. And I met a guy who was a pony fan who could name them all. Unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to go through and capture everything he knew, but he could name every one of the ponies.
All right, I'm going to go over to
you should see that thing.
Oh, that's that AppleCon image. Okay, yeah. I will definitely send her that link when we're done here. But no, that's beautiful. Yeah, no, he does great work, and he's really fun. He said he wants that he and I are going to do an interview. I just have to set a time. So he's been on my short list for a long time. I should get him on.
Have you read Stray Dogs?
I have. Yeah.
What a story.
He's amazing. I mean, and he's so versatile as an artist. So I mean, he's great. But yeah, he's one of those guys who I've met him several times at shows, and we always have fun. Bronies, Mr. Easy Go Lucky. Nothing wrong with Bronies.
I hate to admit, I have a lot of pony art.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's just it because of my girls. I have a lot as well. I mean, we've got sketches. I picked stuff up over the years just when I'd pass somebody and just see something I like. I bought stuff. So my daughter Gwen has at least a dozen pony pieces, whether they were published or commissioned pieces. But
how many ponies have you stepped on in your life?
I don't think I've stepped on any, fortunately. But we've had our fair share of ponies around the house. So
yeah,
it's the Legos you have to watch out for.
Oh, Legos will kill you. Ponies are big enough that it's not that bad.
Right.
Legos will kill you.
Exactly. Well, listen, hey, we're almost at the 2-hour mark. I don't think you bored anybody here. We had a really great audience all night, everybody. So sincerely, Alex, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this with me tonight. Sure. And now everybody knows what you look like. So when they see you at a con, don't be surprised if somebody runs up to you and says hi.
Great, that'd be fun. I'm glad to meet everybody that comes along. And like I said, I hope your audience was at least as good as your regular one. I did publicize it all around.
No. We did it. I mean, there's 50 people watching right now. I think we peaked over 70. So yeah, there's lots of interest. And our stuff gets watched a lot after the fact. A lot of people can't come in live, but they watch them afterwards. So you're quite welcome, Peter. Peter was thanking us both, as was Jeff. Jeff, I owe you
Yeah.
a text. I know it. I'm sorry. I've been busy a couple of days here, but no, this is great. So again, thank you, Alex. I really
My
appreciate
pleasure.
it, and I will send you that link to the video that Steve
That'd be
Creazier put
great.
together. Yeah, of the Kubert, and I'm going to look for
Yep.
that Ramita Senior Joe Kubert convention
Yeah.
sketch thing. Do you remember what show they were at, or does it? You just know that
I think it was New York, but I can't
it
swear
was a
to
New
it.
York show? All right, I'm going to dig around and find that because
But it
that's
was
not.
easy to
That's not
find. I
it.
just said Kubert and Romita, and it shows up.
And it
So
comes up.
there aren't that
Okay,
many where they're together.
I will
All
find
right.
it. All
All
right.
righty.
Thanks,
Take care.
everybody.